Okay, many thanks for the introduction and many thanks for being here. So first I have to get the challenge of this real world problem. Yeah. Okay, many thanks for the Serious Games Association to be here. Many thanks that you are here early morning. Yeah, some people like us coming from NTU have a longer way, and also the last mile is always the most challenging one here in the city. Nevertheless, we made it, and as it was mentioned, so we are a more specific research institute here in Singapore. And my title is now a bit, perhaps stimulate curiosity via interactive visual environments, and use it also with game-like scenarios for education and training. That's the focus. Engage. Yeah, I think this is definitely one of our small challenges to motivate students for some subjects. Just to give you an idea what is happening at NTU, we have also very nice environments. I think nobody else besides Snow City is able to say that we have a ski slope here. So that's art design and media building. And it's very green outside. Certainly more buildings are coming up. And it's a multidisciplinary working environment. Typically, I structure a bit the talks with the real, virtual, and the mixed. And the motivation is here that we developing software. And so this is along the reality and virtuality continuum, perhaps you know from Paul Milgram. And we know the virtual worlds. I think everybody is experienced with that since many decades. Formerly big installations. Meanwhile, we have it in our living room and kids' room. And currently, we're focusing more on the real-world context with such augmented reality environments. Yeah, you know augmented virtuality, that means real on virtual, the green rooms where moderators are walking in fancy environments with dinosaurs and so forth. And we, as I mentioned, providing now such visual solutions. Why are we here? Why is the German face here? So I was sent from Germany to Singapore. So we are a big research organization in Germany with 66 institutes with various topics. The main mission is doing applied research. The main mission is also to follow a certain business model, to work close with the industry and getting some third-party grants. And NIF, respectively MDA, would like to see in which way this is working here. And since 3 years, we have such a wonderful framework, an ecosystem provided by NIF and MDA, and we just left the third-year review in May behind us, and it didn't look bad, so we got a quite wonderful assessment. And so we're providing typically an added value for industrial customers. We're working in various sectors, and what I'm representing today is a fraction of what we are doing. Definitely we have a network. That's one of the advantages, that we can bring in some other technology. All these people, so we have around 350 people in our network working in the field of interactive digital media, or it's more called visual computing in Europe. And the model is always that you have a close collaboration with the university. And here, since we are here since quite a while, NTU is our partner. And that means, I have also a faculty position, but currently my focus is really to bootstrap the center and fulfill all the KPIs. I guess each of us has specific KPIs. That means we're coming from the big black boxes. You know, other players were quite dominant at that time. Now more mobile devices providing the same graphics power. We, in real time, converting data into images. We're looking into interfaces. We're looking into, besides the visual feedback, the haptic feedback. And then you see that we're serving various vertical sectors. And I bring up some examples. Focus here today is a bit education and training, and I guess each of us has their own observations. I'm not typically saying that we're developing games, because I wouldn't like to get in context now that we are a game company, and we cannot compete with game companies who are very specialized and looking into a specific area. So we providing also visual environments. We have a general purpose system, and this can also be used for learning via game-like scenarios. Yeah, we are getting in contact with the youth via certainly the university, but we plugged into some programs here from MOE quite early. Was called at that time Gifted Education Program. We had some projects with primary and secondary schools. I think the most challenge was to get the time slot from such young students. And the second one was to come over to Jurong. As you know, it's not really central. But here we already received some feedback and experience through the time. Yeah, how perhaps use now such technologies in the classroom. And depending now on the subject, it might be also heritage here. That's quite near to my heart, cultural heritage. It's quite difficult now also to raise interest and stimulate curiosity for such subjects. On the other side, we know, and this is also on the other side the challenge, there are also high expectations regarding such visual solutions. Yeah? They have fantastic games in their own room. They are better equipped as ourselves. They have the latest phone. And so they are open to use now such technologies. Please come in. Yeah. I'm happy that yeah, also the first row is filling up. It's similar like in the classroom. But I think it's reserved. That's the reason why it's here. And this is our chance. Yeah, I think everybody know this and experience this. Yeah, this slide and proverb is quite old. So we in the virtual reality sector since the 90s, and it's still, I have to say, applicable. And you can check yourself after this talk. I guess you're remembering 10% what I said. Okay, I'm perhaps getting better remembered regarding my pronunciation because it's changed German accent. Yeah. Then, in terms of images, 30 to 40%, and if we have now the possibility, and we have outside the possibilities at the exhibition to experience and to practice, you have an understanding of 80 to 90%. And that was at that time the motivation and is nowadays the motivation. So what happened so far? Here's, I'm one of the old computer graphics guys, as I mentioned, with the big machines which cost several millions, and also in the beginning here in Singapore we had to invest this. But we know that here a lot of things are happening. Yeah? So the graphics processors are tripling Moore's law. There are better opportunities now to bring realistic visuals on mobile devices and into real time. And we are visual creatures, as we know. We have a high bandwidth regarding this sense, and this is also the chance to attract and to motivate. In terms of hardware, I mentioned it. I know the time when we introduced the first IBM computer. At that time, it cost, I think, 30,000 with DBase and Word and so forth. And there are now fantastic possibilities and dissemination in terms of mobile computing. The other point is, we have to compete now with such realistic environments in terms of games, in terms of movies. Sometimes it's still mixed up with movies, and you have to compete with the realism. And you know what is happening already on your smartphone, and the youngers know all the hippest games, and they are asking why your graphics not such fantastic as theirs. In terms of tools and interfaces, I think here in the last years, a lot of things happened. This is now tailored to product development and the whole value chain, but we know that this is the good news, that we don't have to run around with data gloves anymore and big helmets. Here a lot of things happened that also raised the acceptance rate by the young people and also older people. So thinking about ourselves, we're living in a very dynamic environment. Learning on the move, training on the move is one. We would like to get location-based services. As I mentioned, the hardware is providing such opportunities. On the other side, it's older statistics now about Singapore, but I can check here. So how many mobile devices you have? One. Okay, two. More than two. Yeah, it's iPad, and then perhaps you cannot decide, should it be Samsung or Apple or whatever. Typically, so that means here is a high penetration rate, even among the elderly. There are a lot of possibilities now to reach out. On the other side, we know also, I think everybody's experienced each day, we Google the Google and trying to find the things we're looking for. So that's the reverse side. A lot of data is thrown at us. A lot of sensor data is produced, and we have to master the data jungle. So this is not topic of today, but perhaps quite interesting to see over the recent years what happened in terms of emerging technologies. Perhaps you know the Gartner technology hype cycle. And now, it's for instance, big data. You know that you need some early adopters, you have to go mainstream, you have to come to a productivity plateau. Not all the technologies are making this. And it's always quite nice to see what are the current trends. So Gartner is not perhaps now the only voice here, but it's always used as a reference. So big data is walking up. Augmented reality is already behind the peak. It's going towards disillusion. And coming out 1 week ago, the latest technology hype cycle. The topic is here man-machine interfaces in general. In which way you can help the worker with technology, in which way you can help him with tools and intuitive interfaces, brain-computer interfaces, still for early adopters, but we see other talks that there are fantastic opportunities, and augmented reality is going less. Already mainstream, with higher expectations, I have to say. So if we're going to the virtual, I wouldn't like to touch this too much, because I think everybody's expert in virtual worlds. What is really behind virtual reality? We know it from former time. It's not the cyberspace from Gibson mentioned, that you hook up with the World Wide Web and you have some interfaces communicate. Perhaps you know this guy. It's also questioning in which way now we sense our environment, and this is the way what we are thinking is reality or virtual reality. And perhaps you know Jaron Lanier, who was coining the term virtual reality. You wouldn't like to hear it anymore. But it's always in which way you would like, or you are simulating the environment so that you trick a bit your senses that you're feeling in such a computer-generated environment as in real space. So what I mentioned, this is the past, So with data gloves and some helmets, but the helmets are getting, again, quite popular because there are good projects currently providing cost-effective and high-resolution helmets and lightweight. I'm not quite sure if someone in the 90s had the opportunity to work with such helmets. There was low resoluted, you're getting head pain and headache because getting dizzy. Yeah, this is the past. Currently, I have to say we're not getting so much requests about virtual reality environments. At large scale, it was formerly quite popular with stereoscopic output. As you know, meanwhile, stereoscopic streaming is entering the living room, and yeah, why you should come to us. Yeah, content is king. So it's used mainly now for bigger installations in terms of cultural heritage sites and so forth. If we think now about the mixed reality and the augmentation of our environment, so we are now here. So the idea is really to enhance our view with additional information in terms of text, in terms of images, in terms of videos, in terms of 3D objects and animated 3D objects. And also here a brief history. Yeah, also we started in the 90s with augmented reality. You know that at that time the device technology was a bit different. You have to be strong, you need a backpack, and yeah, good in health. Yeah? And you know how it can be done now. So here there are a lot of opportunities. I'm not quite sure who has already, who's using augmented reality apps on their mobile phones or in general? A few? Okay. Early adopters, or it's already mainstream? What's happening here? So the point is also here, what is the added value? Yeah. So augmented reality has a certain hype and it was quite interesting. So now you have to provide an added value, and I think now due to the big amount of opportunities in terms of apps, which app is surviving? Yeah, it's really a tough competition. So we are here in Singapore not really in the mass market. We're providing more tailored solutions. Okay, and the device zoo on the one side, if you think about Android, on the other side it's quite overseeable if you think about iOS. But more and more sensors are integrated, more and more possibilities in terms of location-based services can be provided. And here we have sometimes the chance to try out some new sensors which will be embedded into such devices very soon and can provide applications. Okay, typically also here it's heritage. Later I'll show some. You can also see outside some demos. Challenges from our perspective, as I mentioned, content is king. The story is important. How you can really fascinate someone to use it. Interaction, okay, formerly we thought, it's intuitive. That was at the time when we had such big data graphs and so forth. So meanwhile, I think with gesture-based interface, with touch interfaces, we have unique possibilities to provide a quite good interface between the user and the application. Opportunities with some examples. Perhaps you know this. I think the good news is now that, we're working with museums since quite a while. The good news is now that curators are more open for such technologies in their exhibitions. Formerly it was the hurdle. If the curator is saying, okay, I wouldn't like to add some technology to my exhibits, you were already out. But meanwhile, the curators are quite open. We are quite happy to see this. Now there are some copyright issues, so that there are some other hurdles. But you can now really convert such spaces, which perhaps looks like a metro station, into some learning spaces. We did some concept work here. As you know, this is not installed at that site up to now. But if you think about now the new malls, and if you took a look at the Suntec Convention City installation now, yeah, you are in the big visual environments, and it's quite difficult to escape from such environments, and it doesn't have to be necessarily stereoscopic. And here there are the possibility to stream your content over there if you get in contact with the provider and also get heard by the provider. Yeah, we did some small work over there. So I'm quite happy that meanwhile an art design media student is at our side, so he's working now. And there are really possibilities to provide such learning spaces. So currently we have the med school, such an idea in which way now learning subjects can be brought to a broader, we don't need this again. This is quite old, yeah, that you can bring brochures, posters, and so forth to life. Existing learning media can be used, so we're also using this for learning. On the other side, also definitely for marketing. Regarding interfaces, I guess each of us get already in contact with Connec, with the surface, with such interfaces and trying it out, and yeah, see perhaps possibilities, but also still some challenges if you would like to install it at public spaces. Next one is now an installation in Germany during an exhibition. It's a combination definitely also with video-based tracking. Yeah, it's you see it's a floor plan, it will be recognized, and based on the movements and gestures of my colleague, you can now navigate through the scene. Formerly, you had Cybernaut in the background doing this, then you could do it by yourself. And my experience is sometimes there are also some installations here at museums and science centers. You don't know exactly how to start. Yeah? It's not quite easy that you see that there is a Connec and you have to move your hands in that way that you can trigger the exhibit. Okay, that's a quite long movie. We don't need this. Others are, again, augmentation of your environment. There are other possibilities to provide functionality as an augmented telescope to such displays. And this is an installation in Netherlands. So you can get some additional information about the various cultural sites. There's also some example that sometimes there are some paintings with another painting in the background. Certainly such things can come to life. And you see there's a standard device with a camera, and the software is recognizing certain features of your environment. There's a tracking system providing then the information regarding your orientation, and then based on this you can overlay your environment with some digital information. Okay, can also stop here. Projects here in Singapore. As I mentioned, we are not really in the game genre, but we're collaborating with people who are providing games on the move. And here it's LDR. But first an example now from Germany. Yeah, depending on the funding source, there's sometimes some interest also in culture. You know, that's quite difficult to get some money for culture. And here you can bring historical building to life, how they looked like in former times. You can bring it to your mobile phone, how the facades looks at that time, and get a better understanding about your cultural environment. I think these applications are widely distributed meanwhile. And again, the question is, why should I load such an application? Yeah. Has to be the difference besides just some clicking and what we're doing here. Okay, another example here. I'm not quite sure if you know the German Reichstag, quite historic building, several times destroyed. And also here you can traveling through time and space, how it looks in former times. So the system is recognizing the site and then it's overlaying some images. And here in Singapore, but the good news is we can bring the Reichstag to Singapore by just using a poster and then augmenting the poster. Yeah, here in Singapore we're working together with LDR, so they are specialized in mobile applications and mobile learning tools, and yeah, they have a quite holistic approach, providing some information, integrating gameplay, and they would like to have an augmented reality component, and here we are. So we're quite happy that we don't have to start from the scratch and to provide now such learning pathways. So they're doing this, and there are a lot of options that you can team up, that you can explore certain trails. You have to find certain landmarks, then these will be augmented. You can write your own story and get your information and findings, put this together and provide this or compare this also with other groups. So this is very popular in schools because you are also the storyteller as class. You can provide your content over there. And more and more trails are offered. Definitely it's also quite applicable for tourism, but here the main direction is now for the schools. There are some other training scenarios also for other target groups. In Singapore, you know, there are also, there's a science center. Who has already some contact and some projects with Science Center here? I think a few of our colleagues from NUS, I guess, have anyway. Okay. So here the focus is definitely on science and engineering. There are a lot of competitions, and there are also a lot of possibilities. In which way, your possibilities are fitting in. We see later an augmented reality Chinese learning game that is installed there. We had some contributions to nanotechnology, providing now such a journey through the exhibition. This is another partner we can look at here in Singapore. Much more feedback and demands we're getting from companies who would like to provide some specific training. And here, besides standard training, using now augmented reality, they considering more and more gameplay and serious games in the portfolio. Here this is a typical scenario for maintenance, repair, overhaul. You have the possibility to read some data from the respective engine, or then you can overlay it with the heat map. You get some hints about the various components, and then you are able to identify the error source. So this is currently one of the main directions, definitely in Germany, and also more and more here in Singapore, because the worker is getting more and more mobile. There are various facets now. You can also combine it with a remote expert. You know, it's quite difficult and costly to send experts around the world, but you know that some big engines are produced over there, and the experts are in US or in Europe. And here you can overlay now also some expert's opinion by a remote expert. You see here still some fancy screws and all these things in which way you have to rotate. The first studies showed that it's much easier perhaps to attach a video done by an expert to the respective location, and then the mobile worker is able to learn this. Electromobility is also a topic in Germany. You know, it's also here. But here in Germany, there's a project looking at training, maintenance, repair, overhaul also for e-vehicles. Yeah? And this can be done to motivate also to go to the portal where a lot of interesting repair processes are available. It can be also done via such typical little games, mini games to provide now some motivation. Unfortunately, it's German, but perhaps you know the cars. Definitely, there are a lot of options. Doing it in the real world. We don't have to ignore that. But prior to that, that was just quite successful last year. We set up a real mixed reality scenario. That means we acting in the reality, we influencing the virtual reality, and then this is influencing again a real bulb. It's not rocket science now to learn Ohm's law, but it's now an example in physics where now resistors can be oriented in parallel and in sequence, and based on this, you know, there's a different current. And gives you a small example. You saw the interface to the bulb. That's real engineering work. It's not getting a design prize, but it's connected to the computer, so we are able to control the bulb based on our current. And here you can manipulate now the resistors. Then the virtual current will be shown, also some resistors. You're closing the circuit if you're doing it correctly, and then the respective current will be calculated, and then also you get a reaction by the bulb. Formerly we had the virtual bulb, now we have a real bulb. So it's a true mixed reality environment. So here you have some possibilities really to provide some small experiments. And in health, we have a different session here at the conference. There are also some possibilities to do it via brain-computer interfaces. My colleague Olga Zorina will talk about this. Currently, I'm not quite sure if you know, we have a new medical school coming up at NTU. So it's already up, so the first batch of students there. Just to show you, they put on their banner novel educational tools. So each of these 54 students have an iPad. And then some tools are already implemented, and one of the future tools will be also such an augmented anatomy system that beyond the learning anatomy with some plastic models, you have the possibility to get some information overlaid when you are pointing your device to such models. Okay, classroom. Why I'm here as German, So for me, it's definitely the multicultural environment that's interesting. So I can tell you I failed desperately in learning Chinese language. That was my attempt to learn it with new technology. So it's getting better, but I'm not using it each day and intensively. But the idea was, when I came over, I bought some flashcards from Popular. You know it, with the Chinese word, the translation, the image, the pronunciation is the first challenge. Then I had wonderful colleagues, Chinese speaking, giving here also the audio feedback. It's not now here. And have some possibilities to learn it now with such interfaces. And there are stages now that you can make it more complicated. You have to combine it. You have to write it in the correct sequence and so forth. in terms of strokes. And then you get the meaning as a 3D object. Okay, I think I'm running out of time. Okay, latest pilot projects are really schools who would like to present their campus in a different way. So they identifying specific sites and would like to overlay this information, and they're using this tool by themselves and providing their own small augmented reality applications. And so here we have quite good experience now with some schools who are using this now as a first test case, and certainly you can link it up with social networks. In the interest of time, we're coming to the conclusions. So more and more companies who are providing educational software are approaching us. Yeah? Because they see an added value that we're providing some different learning environments. Typically for distance learning, for augmented reality labs. The other good news is that the educational experts, and here on the forum there are a lot of experts from this field, are using this more and more in the classroom. We had also some projects with NIE who providing the perspective and the angle from the other side. Sometimes definitely, yeah, in former times it was the hurdle to introduce new technologies because you need first an invest and the budget for the invest. Meanwhile, there are so many media labs at the schools which can be utilized. I think that's also the good news. But sometimes, depending also on the educational experts, they wouldn't like to put in too much technology into the classroom. It's fine. I should be used complementary. And what I really see as challenge sometimes is these young people are experts in visual environments, and you have to meet the high expectation in terms of realism, interactivity, thrilling story. Even if you wrap up a subject into a different way, yeah, it's quite demanding to really fascinate. Okay, Outlook. Yeah, we mentioned this already. More and more personalized services. In terms of hardware, yeah, we know that there are fantastic developments on the way. In terms of tools, yeah, I'm always saying it's like a PowerPoint for augmented reality. Yeah? More and more toolkits are already on the market that you are able to develop your own augmented reality applications. You don't have to come to us. You can use such toolkits. And this is really in action meanwhile. Challenges in terms of tracking to match the real and the virtual world is, yeah, now you are able to track posters. It's getting exciting if you think about 3D objects. Yeah, you would like to walk around the 3D sculpture and it has to be recognized and has to be easily done. And here you can use meanwhile, this is still a research topic, yeah? Your own camera will set up in point cloud. This will be used as reference, and then it will be matched. You saw you still need a bridge between the real and the virtual world. That was via such a marker. Yeah? Otherwise, also the camera is not knowing how big such an object is. Okay. Okay, yeah, that's only a small information, because sometimes also innovation is always the topic of. And health, yeah. Games for Health is also, I think, topic of this conference. So perhaps you know Fast Company, it's such a journal, yeah, looking into entrepreneurs and most innovative companies, and there's also, yeah, each year such a competition. Second place is Amazon. But I mentioned now Nike because, yeah, you see what is happening currently with such health gadgets. More and more companies, it's not limited now to Nike. I don't have a sponsorship contract here. But you see more and more possibilities are now to connect your own device with some interesting apps, and you get monitored in terms of health monitoring all the way. And this is currently a fast-growing market and a big demand. And this can be also used now for competitions and games and such things. Yeah, you know this. Yeah, we had also semi-transparent displays over the years. I never use this now, but I have my own. Yeah, I think the visual sense is quite complex. I'm really interested to see in which way such things will enter the mass market and will be convenient for us to wear. But then there are a lot of options. But I think the challenge is also here that we are not overloaded with information. Okay, this is our marina-based sense, literally speaking. And many thanks for your attention.
I'd like to now open the floor for some questions after the very interesting look into the future. Robert from Taiwan.
You just mentioned that you have already collaborated with a local company to make the learning trail. Which part do you provide? Do you provide the authoring tool for the learning trail? Is there any possibility to collaborate with you to make it available in Taiwan? Thank you.
Oh, that's already an interesting opportunity. Didn't expect this here. Yeah, as I mentioned, we're providing the augmented reality component now for this mobile application. It will be plugged in. I have to admit that the authoring tool is not included there at this point of time. So currently, it's predefined which landmarks or specific sites will be augmented and has to be recognized. But in future, it will be part of the authoring tool from LDR, because also this part would perhaps augment some specific information and not always the predefined. And in general, we are open for collaboration. So it's.
So you provide an automatic solution or part to other companies?
Yeah, it's typically automatic in that sense that we jointly defining interfaces, and if it's an existing technology, we provide our component to this. We also providing own turnkey solutions, but we are not reinventing the wheel in that sense that if there's already an existing solution and only an added value in terms of a specific visualization or an augmented reality component is necessary, we plug in.
Yeah. Do you have your own engine for AR?
Yeah. Yeah.
Any more questions? Yes.
Professor Wolfgang, thank you for sharing about augmented reality and its applications. Can you please share with us, were there any unexpected side effects as a result of using augmented reality by the students?
Unexpected side effects sounds a bit unhealthy,
There could be side effects as well.
It could be both ways.
Yeah. What I mentioned, we have to be quite clear that for technology's sake, we won't win anymore. Yeah, formerly it was perhaps a surprise effect that said, okay, it's an interesting project also for them to participate and to use it. But meanwhile, the bar is higher. Yeah, so you need, if you're providing a turnkey solution, you need a really good story. And if you now check the various stores, doesn't matter if it's Android or iOS, there are so many augmented reality applications already. And also for marketing, or if you go to exhibitions, there are so many AR applications, and it's quite difficult, I think, from our side or developer side to motivate to download such an app. So here it's one thing. The other aspect is really, I'm not seeing this as bad side effect, but the request is higher now to be own storyteller. Yeah, that you would like to use such a tool by yourself, and you wouldn't like to come to Wolfgang to do it. Yeah, so that you have an authoring tool, that you can provide now augmented reality scenarios, that you can integrate this in your own app. Yeah, so HTML5 is, I think, a good interface now to make this happen. And also that you don't have to be now a visual computing expert to use this. Yeah, and we are on the way to this. I'm not saying now that it's currently in that shape. We have some pilot projects now also in Germany where such a company is trying it out, in which way it can be used by, for instance, marketing people or salespeople. But this is the way, yeah. And this applies also for students.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the talk, Professor Müller. I'm wondering, because Fraunhofer has such a wide spectrum of like research in Germany, why do you choose especially the virtual reality and augmented reality? I mean, is it because the expertise of the NTU here at the university, or why?
Okay. As you know, first it's based on people. Yeah? Secondly, also, you're right, visual computing, also the institute I'm coming from has a broader spectrum. The department I'm coming from is exactly the focus, yeah, nearly the same focus. So it depends also which people are coming over to provide core expertise. On the other side, we are adapting to the demands. And that's the reason I think why a lot of people from overseas are here, because here are some specific requirements. The technology might be similar all over the world, and if you take a look at the research topics, they are nearly the same. But here are some specific requirements, and that's the exciting thing. And this was, I think, the roots. Yeah, we're coming from visualization, and then we extended this more and more to augmented reality. Yeah.
Anyone else? I have a question.
Okay.
So we've talked a lot about augmented reality with your research around that, like augmented reality. What is your take on virtual reality and how that would assist a lot of the real world situations, teaching and learning? What is your take on? I mean, there's a lot of research, a lot of work, but what is your personal experience or research around this?
So, as I mentioned, I'm coming from virtual reality. I see still the opportunities of such environments. And I think each of us has an own virtual reality at home and so forth. And then we're using also virtual reality now for augmented reality, the digital content. It came at that time always from big installations, and here some research was necessary. And I think even for virtual reality installations, some money is needed if you would like to have a high quality environment. For specific areas it's used, if you think about engineering problems, simulation problems. But I think we have now a lot of other options to learn in the real world context, and I see here more opportunities. Yeah. The big or the visualization installations still exist, yeah. And you also have, for smaller groups, cost-effective solutions. But currently, depends now what you putting under virtual reality. So if you put now also multi-touch tables, bigger installations, or it's not a big installation as virtual reality, this is still needed, yeah, with intuitive interfaces. But like here, such a lecture hall with a big installation, there are not so many requests. Or you have to provide then also for university a business model that it will be utilized. Otherwise, it might be quite difficult. But it's still there.
Any other questions before we have? Yes. I have a comment really about learning on the move too. My students actually used it this year, and I found that their feedback was boring. And I think
it was on my slides.
I think the point I'm making is that even as we are developing these tools, the students today, they're getting more distracted and restless, and their level of expectations is ever increasing, and it's very hard to keep up with their changing demands.
Yeah, what I mentioned, that they are their own experts, and I think they have an own media lab at home, yeah, and have a high quality content, and to put it in the classroom or on a mobile classroom, it's really challenging to stimulate curiosity. One point is really that if there are such tools more available, that they are their own storytellers, then you can blame them that's boring, huh? Because they provided the content, yeah. But it's you're right that the expectations are quite high, and still if they think it's a learning situation, they are biased, I guess.
No, I think they are becoming ever more novelty seekers, and it's very hard to always, be novel.
Yeah. Yeah, but then I think there are here quite good ecosystem. Yeah, so it's perhaps also a threat, perhaps for some teachers now, okay, to bring more technology in because the students would like to have it, and they are more experts as the teacher. Yeah. But I think there are also some opportunities that perhaps the community is, the class is providing content and learning environments under the guidance of a teacher, yeah, who then provides perhaps some specific content, and they're wrapping it up into a learning scenario, yeah. But it's definitely difficult because what I mentioned, they have always the latest generation of mobile phones, yeah. They have apps, you never heard about it, yeah? And they know what is possible and what then will be presented by others. It might be challenging for them to understand why it's not such fantastic and some run, jump, and shoot games. Yeah.
So I think I'll answer your question. I have a background in marketing, and the big change that's happening in marketing is that nobody wants advertising. So all the companies I represent are very upset because they're trained in advertising, but who wants to watch an advert really? So to do that, we put customer at the centre of the experience and work out actually what experience the customer wants. It's no different for students. The problem is if you approach it like this amazing technology, we'll introduce it, you actually haven't solved the problem. You've just got excited about the technology. You have to start from actually what's good for the kid and what's going to have them participate and be engaged. And I think you can take technology out of the environments and make it more engaging by removing the technology and then lowering it in a way that's effective and meaningful. So we looked at it yesterday using games for education. I think that's what this event's about. Is a good game is not created to make technology sing. A good game is created to get the player to enjoy the experience. And then technology can support it, great. If not, it doesn't matter.
I think very valid point. I think it's not just novelty. Yes, sorry. I think in whatever form of interactivity, whatever form of technology, the most important thing is how we embedded it in our teaching background. So the children will be very engaged in augmented reality if we have a purposeful form of activity. Because children tend to, the boring thing about engagement is it is not engaging for children when they are passive receivers of information. So if you have an augmented reality tool, as you were saying, bring to I think it's in Spain or something, and when you have the augmented iPad with that, it should be like, trying to conquer the place. You have to go through and explore, okay, what is this and what is that. It's this intuition that makes them wanting to know more. I mean, technologies are there. I mean, I've been studying about engagement in all forms of interactivity. So when we have all forms of interactivity, it's not engaging if it doesn't catch. Just a drag and drop of a puzzle can engage the children much more than all this sophisticated, interactivity.
Yeah.
So it's all about embedding everything in the scenario of teaching and learning. Contextualized. Yes. It has to be like that. I don't know what
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm not here to throw technology at you. Yeah? Though I seems to be more techno. Yeah? But the point is, that's the reason for such dialogue session. I show opportunities and hope to inspire. And again, content and story, this is up to the domain experts. So I don't know exactly how now your teaching is designed and in which way that can be seamlessly integrated. This is a dialogue, that's the point, yeah? And they blaming very often us more in that sense, or you would just to sell your technology. I'm not always in favor of the technology we are representing. It's not always the goal solution, yeah? But it might be a component to help. Yeah, and I'm typically saying always challenges and opportunities. Yeah, so it's still have some challenges. You're right, and as I mentioned, just to show that it's augmented reality doesn't help.
Thank you. This is interesting. Last year, my company was asked to create a game. VR technology. They want to create a game style. VR technology embedded. But then our observation, our research is, if you look at it, the technology will make the player experience because we have to see the screen. And that's one thing. And then we come up with an idea, just like you said. We need the technology. The technology will be very optimal if the player somehow can be the authors of the game, then they can put everything. But at that time, we don't have such a thing. So my point is, I think if this authoring tool that you get, it will resolve many things basically. As I mentioned, student can be the center of the experience. We can have such a big library from everyone. And then, we can create every place become a big board game. This kind of technology. So, my final question, will be it for free, available, or we look for it. I will look for it for one.
The point is, the answer is always case by case. No, for testing, so you have also consider now specifically our KPIs. Also, our main KPI is external funding. Yeah. So that means that I can give it you for free, and then after a certain while, like chopping off my head because I'm so a nice guy to everybody, but I'm not fulfilling my KPIs. But there are various collaboration models. Yeah. So it's but quite honest that we are providing it for free as a business. Collaboration might be a bit more challenging for us, yeah. But coming back to your point, so we know the Christmas wish list, yeah, and it needs also some time from our side or from other companies' side, yeah. Other companies are really strong in this genre and offering meanwhile an SDK that you can really use it. Might be not at that time last year, but meanwhile there are such tools. So I'm honest, we are not the only one. We are a research institute, yeah. But there are meanwhile companies offering this, yeah, SDK or providing also app development based on your demands.